But there's just some unexplainable things, or at least from our perspective, that are on there. And there's at least probably 6 to 7, maybe more different peoples over time that travel to all of the sites and leave their mark. So yeah, I can recognize that these are the same symbols from the other site. However, the older ones, what they call it, archaic petroglyphs. There's really no rhyme or reason, as far as we could tell, but they look a lot like some of the stuff that you would see right here with the aurora borealis. Like,
we're coming into the season of manipulation. These last 2 months, they tell you eat as much as you can, buy as much as you can, spend as much as you can, consume as much as you can. But the other 10 months out of the year, they're like carbon credit, eat half, eat insects. We're mixed messaging, as we come into this season. So please know what's going on. Also, have you felt a little bit of amplified energies? Because this solar storm that came ripping through had ground level electricity, for a better term, on it. Those auroras came and hit the ground level events, is what they call them. So penetrated as far as it could with an electrical current from space down onto the crust, right here where you stand, right, that thing you're standing on. So if you feel a little more electric, maybe everything's electrified in the atmosphere. You notice your devices behaving strangely, your phone's just kind of acting up, your internet's acting up, your computer's acting up, can't get through to like a call service line, their lines are acting up. It's all because everything's overcharged right now. There's a massive amount of electric current in the whole global electric circuit. So if things seem skizzy today or yesterday, that's because it was. Thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. We are in the year of change yet again. Happy 2026.
right. I don't know, man. Everything's
Right.
glitching out on me right here. There we go.
See, you're a computer too. Say everybody.
Well, it wasn't just the computer, but Restream, man. It just wigged out when I tried to go live there. I saw some comments saying we had like 3 live streams going. But
3 ransoms, triple the pleasure.
Right. Here we were below the camera line, and there were people that were saying that the sky was red, and they took a lot of pictures here, so that it was pretty bright. Colorado had it really good. We were expecting, a G5 last night, but they downgraded it to a G4. And then we didn't see anything last night, but the night before that, we had red glowing skies here. But most of it you could really only see with the camera because we're below that camera line. But the real story with that is our magnetic field is collapsing. And it's been, I don't know how many times in the past year that the lower, not the lower, but the at least 15 or more states you could see the northern lights, which is kind of a new thing for most people in their lifetime here. But it's going to get stranger if we keep getting more and more of those coming, because every time that hits, it blows off a little bit of what magnetic field is left. So although these can't...
And I didn't mean to blow us off the screen there. Here we come back.
Right.
This is the Enlil spiral. So if you're looking at the
Yeah.
event in real time going on here. All right. So if we're going to look at the Enlil spiral, you can see where the green spike was. So that spike, and I'll bring it back over here. When you're talking about Zulu time, 4 hours difference in the
1, 2,
UK.
3.
But again, we had the time change. So right there, like 400 Zulu, which is about midnight as we turned into the next day from 11 to 12. So you can see the giant spike. Now, I encourage you to look on the left side, and I'll kind of go slow a little bit. The Fed's out of options, rate cuts, money printing, balance sheet reversals. They call it policy, but it's really panic. This is the end game economics, where hope replaces discipline and the illusion of control finally breaks. They're not cutting rates because things are strong. They're cutting rates because the system is cracking. The labor market's stalling. Confidence in the dollar is fading fast. For decades, the Fed built a house of paper. Now they're striking the match that could burn it down, leaving you to pay the price. Every cycle ends the same. Bubbles, bailouts, and broken retirements. That's why smart investors are moving to what's real. Gold and silver. When's the last time you actually held the wealth you've spent your life working for? My friends at Noble Gold Investments have been helping Americans move from paper wealth into real, tangible assets. Numbers on a screen can disappear, but physical gold and silver, that's lasted through every single crisis in history. Go to 2030gold.com and get your free wealth protection kit today. That's 2030gold.com. Click on that link in the description box below and discover how easy it is to protect your future. And for this holiday season, when you open a qualified account with Noble Gold Investments, you'll receive 10 1-ounce commemorative silver holiday coins, limited edition, and a joyful way to celebrate the season and invest in something real. But watch how the CME had surrounded the Earth and just hit it really quickly. On the bottom, you look at the radial velocity. That's the speed coming in at kilometers per second there. So you know that's pretty fast. I've seen,
Yeah.
when I think it was the 1986 event, it was like at 2,200. So it's not anywhere close to being off the chart like it was with the 86 event, where, that blacked out the entire Northeast power grid. So it was substantially higher than this. So just put it into context. But you can really see that thing go from 0 to 60, literally from 400 to 1,600. The solar wind increased 4 times faster in less than a day. You can see right there. 400 to
Right.
1,600. That's a 4x. So if you're feeling energized, please understand that this is why. So, and then, so watch that back to the bottom left there, but
Or
you,
sick.
to see how it's coming out of, you can just watch that thing just blast out of there at full speed. And it was moving really quickly comparatively to others. And then that black is what you're looking at, the density there. And that's cubic centimeters of plasma in that. And that's energetic soup, for the best term, the fourth state of matter. It holds everything. So
Right.
here we are surrounded by it. Now it's not off the chart again when you're looking at the radial velocity. Black means like the speed, how fast it's going, and the density up top. There was that little tiny line right in here, but that's where it picks off at above 60. So they're pegging the chart on, like, in a cubic centimeter, how much can you squeeze in there in a cubic centimeter? So
I,
incredibly dense. So think about flour thrown into the air and it's just kind of drifting down. That might be like a 15 or something. But when you get up to 60 or even higher, it gets squeezed together. So as it hits, it actually has force with it. So that's why so many things got absolutely fried this week. And if you're feeling like you're part of that with your brain, your spiritual feelings, people around you, your electronic devices, the entire circuit got overly charged. Overly charged.
oh, I messed
This
that
is the
up.
same thing that caused the power grid to go down in Spain. So now we had one of those just super rare events that took down the power grid in Spain. Field aligned current comes down from the ionosphere, another ground level event. And then this, just the last couple of days, we had that punch down on multiple places across the planet. Like, this is definitely a ramp up in this kind of event if you're looking at it.
Yeah, I wanted you to check out this.
Oh yeah,
For
that's such a good one. Thank you for sending me that earlier. That's such a very clean understanding
Yeah,
of when
just
there's
imagine we keep getting hit by these, and right
again
now
and again.
our magnetic field is already collapsing. So every time, and I think it's probably lucky that that was a cannibal there with the 1, 2, 3, because they kind of ate each other up, and we don't get like a full blast hitting the Earth because it's all hitting each other and bouncing around everywhere. But if you could imagine that, that was, what was it, a X5 that happened?
Yeah, it
Um,
was only an X5. Nothing about that. It was an X20 or something. Only an X5. That's pretty big. Like, it's going to take a while for Earth's magnetosphere to recover from. There you go. That's the X. But think about that. Since this already overcharged the circuits already, I mean, it is the highly charged planet right now. Like, a war could kick off. These kind of like angsty things are just amplified right now. So if another big one does come, if we just come around and we get another 5, X1, X2, X5, X7, whatever, it is going to absolutely. Well, oh, this one was one of my favorites that you sent me. Watch the density of this thing, and also the nanoteslas. Watch how they get incredibly excited into that dark red, where I mean, that's just like electric, like literally putting your finger in a light socket wherever it turned red. Oh, look at that. And most of it was over the ocean out in the Pacific, where you couldn't even see the tremendous, like, auroras
right.
coming down there. Like, a huge amount of the aurora visibility was not, it was over the Pacific. Like, ships would have seen it. But like it wasn't over the United States, we'd be like, "Whoa, unbelievable, man! This is gonna outrageous things have been happening."
A
So that's
lot of
enough.
people around here just everybody's sick. And I marked it. It happened right when we first started getting the, first magnetic storm the other day, and just everybody sniffling, coughing, sneezing.
Hmm.
Um, I think, well, when it was up to 9, the KP index for quite a while, so that weakens immune system sometimes with some people. Other people, like you said, they think they feel energized. They are literally energized. No,
You're
I'm just
tapping
saying,
into that same thing Nikola Tesla was tapping into.
yeah, what happens
No, no, there's
though.
no perpetual motion machines or amplification devices for magnetic field currents. Nope, nothing like that.
Right. And I'm just wondering, because they've re-estimated the quarantine of it to probably a X80, which is really
Mm.
high. Usually we thought it was like an X40 or maybe a little above that. But if you can just imagine,
Yeah, look at
the
that.
Earth is like a speck on that dark spot, and this is the amount of energy that's blowing out, and we're really
That's a
lucky.
halo. That's coming back at us. Like, what?
We're so
That when
lucky
you're looking
that
at that's flowing back on the
right.
if you're looking at this way, it'll be coming towards you. It's a halo event. It goes all around. That's insane.
So if that's an X5, just imagine what an X40 or above would look like on the same thing. It'd probably knock that sensor out.
Yeah, let's see if we can go to Soho or SDO right now and pull that up. Had it up on my Solar Dynamics Observatory.nasa.gov.
And if you
Allow
saw on
me.
the internet, people were freaking about, oh no, it's going to be a 5. That's the top one on the level. That's only because they don't mark it past that. But with the scale that they have, there could be G6, 7, 8. We just don't do that. It just goes to 5, and it's bad. There it is.
Boom,
Look at that
coronal hole
monster.
looking you right in the eye. Now, if you're going to notice that
Looks like a chicken.
yeah, that sort of west limb over there, not really northwest, but west limb. Look, there's a whole um, new set of very twisted and oppositely magnetized sunspot group coming in there. So that looks like a very prime candidate for another giant flare, right in here. And if we took look at, we can look at that in different angstroms, so you can start to see how it's the coronal hole is that really dark piece in there. But look where all those other filaments are, all up and down in on that gray. So those coolers or the filaments is like lava that rose to the top and is cooling down. Well, it's a filament of plasma that kind of rose up above and it's cooling down before it hits out through the corona there, and then it heats back up again, which is insane. How it's cooler down on the actual plasma surface of the sun than it is up the corona above the sun. So here's a different, these are just angstroms. Now, where you see that dark or you see that very light yellow, those are the intertwining opposite polarity magnetic fields on there that are going to snap off and create another set of flares. Oh, was that a tornado on there? That might have been. Oh, that's a prominence. Check this one out. Oh, I can't make it
Right.
any bigger. Oh,
Now I
there.
see it. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that prominence. Solar tornadoes.
All you have to do is go look at some of the histories of some of these that we've recorded, and you see chunks of plasma coming off the sun that's like 3 or 400 or 500 times the size of the Earth, and those are
Yeah,
those
just a
little ones.
glob of like molten something. That's the density right there. Now that would shit. I don't think you could measure that density. All right, so
Right.
that was solar dynamics. What if we go over to Soho? The very latest images on Soho. Ransom, am I still showing you the screen or not?
Yes. Yeah, we're
Okay.
looking at Soho there.
All right, so it just gives you the same view on that. But so you can look at them all at the same time. And this one does have also movies and JPEG movies you can watch on it. So what do you see there that's interesting? This one here, maybe some GIF movies.
Maybe that's why that electric comet Atlas is so supercharged out there putting out
Well,
all the
that's the
sails.
direction. Well, that's the direction you see that last flow there. That was going toward Atlas, like where it's really dark on, say, the 2 o'clock position right now. This thing should loop again and rewind. But you'll see, oh, there's that scatter halo. You can see that's the density of electrons coming in, protons, whoosh. The density. Oh, look at the density of that. I got to save this, Jay. I'm so glad we came here. I want to save this one. Download. That's insane. Look how long that is. That's a huge duration, absolute monster. That's just
Look
wow.
at that last little burst off of there. Jeez.
Yeah, right. Hold on a
Yeah, and
second.
these
I
are
want to say
relatively
this.
small in comparison to things that would really hurt the Earth. The real issue is the fact that our magnetic field is so compressed and collapsed right now. We're more vulnerable to this kind of stuff in real
Yeah,
ways
let's listen
than
go again. I'll show you.
yeah.
No, go ahead. See, I was just, yeah, the waves off coming off. But Atlas is to that 2 o'clock position too. Whack! Look at that. That's really some of the highest I've
Yeah.
ever seen. And I've only been looking at this stuff for maybe like 15 years, not a 30, 50, 100 year guy, but like, well over a decade, like way well over a decade. I've
You see
never seen
that
that density ever. It's usually like half of that. And about the most I've ever seen is like half of that. Look how long those streaks are. Damn, man. Usually
right.
they come out in all that fluff and fuzz and like staticky, but the long striations this time of that, wow. That's just
And
like
what
really
really
unseen before. This kind of
right.
the needles in there. They look like needles of light. That it's something
It's
unique
like
we're
one of
seeing
those old photographs that you would get that had all
right
of those
there.
markings on it, especially if you're taking pictures around radiation and stuff. You'd get that on the old film.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, here's a good. Okay, so this one allows you to see
Yeah. That first one that comes off like a missile, that's really the one that's drippy.
oh, there we go. There we get the halo coming off.
Yeah, watch this to the right side.
This is a head here. Again, just the sheer and just raw they're blasted, but
Yeah.
that we're looking at it as we would be looking at Earth. So behind the occulting disk just goes straight ahead. The Earth's in front of the sun from this view. The other view, we were looking at the sun from the Earth view, going this direction. Like that last one, we'd be looking at ourselves.
You know what's
This thing
really
too, it shows much wider blast patterns too. Like you notice that one came off there. It's not 2 o'clock. It would be the 10 o'clock position. There,
so
boosh. You
the
can really see
really
it coming out far there. Oh,
you
one
know
more time.
what's
Boosh.
yeah.
All right, I'll stop you. I get all like
Get all excited
super
there.
nerdy on this stuff, man. I really do.
Right. No, what's really remarkable
I love that kind of stuff, man.
is the fact that we're getting any interstellar objects at all. We're in the Milky Way. Everybody knows that. But what they don't know is in all of space that we've ever looked at, there's a giant void around the galaxies that we're nearest. So, in other words, the area that the Milky Way and Andromeda and that stuff, so Earth, where we're at, is one of the least dense areas of the universe. It's called the KP void or something like that. And it's really messing with scientists because they can't tell by looking out into space the exact expansion rate of the universe. They get two different answers because inside the void, the matter that's in there, because it's in a void of matter, is being attracted by gravity. So all of the galaxies and clusters are moving faster than the rest of the universe out towards the edge of the void. It's kind of like I'm sure you've heard the idea of the universe being a foam kind of medium, and there's little bubbles in that foam, and those bubbles are voids. There's relatively nothing in it compared to what's out there in other places of the universe. So the odds that we're just sitting out here kind of by ourselves next to another galaxy, in this giant void, and yet still things are flying through, and moving around, and they can't even get a real comprehension of what's going on in the rest of the universe because we're at a different speed within the void. So everything's moving a lot faster where we live than it is in the rest of the universe, or as far as they can tell.
Think about the density of that. If you were looking at density of, what you consider like energetic object, like really energy, like a photon or something that is light energy, an electron, these things, protons have weight and this sort of thing. So there's actually, you can measure them density. So think about that's like super fluffy. It's literally light. So it doesn't weigh really anything. That's the density that affects our planet. Can you imagine going to a super dense region where there's like super tons of like real space debris and cometary leftovers and all kind of like micro asteroid belts that come in? Like, wow, we are
Right.
just so lucky we're here. Can you imagine that something of density of like rock density that you have to go through every so often? That
Well,
wouldn't get very far along on a planetary civilization.
I think the weird part about it is the fact that we probably wouldn't be alive. We talk about all these cataclysms that do happen, and we're in a relatively stable, less dense portion of the universe. So everywhere else that you would live outside in other galaxies in the regular medium of the universe, there would be a lot more particles, a lot more radiation, a lot more objects. So the odds of life getting started on one of the planets out there in that area is a lot less than it just happens to be where we live. And then not only are we in a much larger void, I think it's the KBC void, but there's a local hole that we're in that's even less dense than the bigger hole around it. So, um, astronomers are really scratching their head because it doesn't seem possible. The odds on us being here, and then it goes all the way down to the small scale of our planet. We just happen to have the right size moon. Our Earth is just at the right size tilt. Our sun is just the right distance away that we're not frozen or burnt up. And they're starting to write more and more papers explaining this phenomenon as, get this, God. It's really
Well,
funny because the whole atheist ideas that have been coming out of science for decades and decades, is now finally coming to the conclusion that there must be some kind of master programmer, creator, or something for all of these variables to just so happen to be for us to be sitting on this rock at this time talking about it.
as it should be, everything in good time.
Yeah, look at that.
Just while you were talking, I was just going to go through some images. I didn't mean to stop your thought. Please continue. I just wanted to let everybody see, like, this is down in the south here, and some of those are grapes that still they haven't dropped the leaves because it's not so cold yet. So, where's this place going to be at here? Northern California. Okay,
I don't
well,
know
that's
all
good
the
stuff.
all the numbers, but they keep telling us here that it's record warm highs and stuff, and it's been freezing at night. I've had to cover up the tomatoes, and I usually do that every year. I cover up the patches of plants with like tarps overnight, and then it gets back to 70 degrees in the daytime, so I can prolong the plant growth and vegetable growth probably until December, until like we get a really hard winter storm or something. Um, but the fact that the snow is coming down all over the place and the ski resorts are getting extra giddy, it boggles my mind how they keep trying to tell me that I'm burning up when it's cold outside, or that the summer is so extreme that we've never had one before, when I grew up here and I know better. I mean, there it is, there's that camera line.
Yeah, we were solidly in the Tennessee camera line, way down. I'm down here over in the east part, down over here.
Yeah, it was actually a lot further than that on some of them that I saw. The camera
Yeah, and
line
where's this?
went all the way down into New Mexico, and
Yeah,
people were getting a lot of good pictures of it.
they had them all the way down into Georgia as well. And that's further south than we are, and that's happened several times before, where they'll see a lot of aurora down in Georgia, like bigger, stronger ones, but we won't see them here. That looks like that's a fake one,
Obviously. However,
obviously. Oh, there we
how
go. That could be North Pole in Alaska. That's pretty trippy.
if you're sitting down here in the lower latitudes and you look up and you see this stuff,
Oh, you're
uh,
in trouble.
um, well, it just shows you why people were putting so many weird things on the canyon walls. That
Mhm.
this has happened before, and like I was saying, it's so weird to a lot of people. They're out there talking about, this has never happened in our lifetime. We've never seen it. Blah blah blah. Well, you might actually get used to it, because the more the magnetic field collapses, lesser and lesser geomagnetic storms will reach further and further down to the lower latitudes. As
Yeah,
far
so
as optical, you know, things in the sky there.
it's pretty trippy. It looks like that thing would almost, I wonder how you'd resonate with it, because if you're directly below that, you got to think that current flow is going straight down to the ground from there, because that's not that high up. All right, so you got to think about that whole edge there. That is an electric shimmer line that is moving a plaza. That's crazy. And
So
it's connecting down to the earth, right? So if you're standing directly under that,
right.
your energization, if there's such a word, is going to go through the roof. The magnetic
imagine
field is going to be your friend.
imagine if year by
Oh, check that
year
one out.
you have little ceremonies. Look at that one that looks like a bird over there. You have ceremonies in which you're eating mushrooms and drinking homemade alcohol. And every time you do this at your, things, the sky's normal. You go through the normal, stuff that they do while they're on mushrooms, probably sharing oral traditions and things like that. And then all of a sudden, this shows up in the sky while you're just shrooming out. You're going to think it's something really significant, and it is, but they couldn't understand that. But now we do. The significance is you're seeing telltale signs of what could possibly lead to world hunger.
Yeah, and I agree because this is the second instance of this incredibly powerful. You see at the very tip of that where it's turning white. At that point, that is going down into what they would. It's almost going back and reverting out of the color spectrum back to pure energy of white again. That's how highly charged those areas that are turning white. And those are the ones that are already starting to extend out that field aligned current. Like you can almost see it coming out of there. These tendrils that split and twist amongst themselves. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't, but it is always within these. And if they're really highly electrified in certain spindles or tendrils of them, they come out and they'll start spinning down like a storm front, and like a tornado would come out of a storm front somewhere. The same thing. There'll be an auroral rope that'll start spinning down out of one of these really highly electrified, like skirt fronts right here, and ground level touching. So imagine watching something like that grow from where it's white and then turn into tendrils and then come down to what appears to be ground touching from anywhere. That's really far in the distance there. Like you would watch that spin down onto the ground and be like, whoa. That's why we start to see these things. You're right, on the canyon walls. Here's another good one. I mean, put that on. Try to describe this to me, and then carve it on a canyon wall so I can see it in 1,000 years from now. Like, give me the signs that this thing is going to amplify. Like, carve it in a wall somehow so it stays 1,000 years without all the water coming over and re-corroding over with the mineral composition, and describe that to me so when I see it again, I know there's something coming that's big to warn me for the next time. 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years, however long ago it was, 40,000 years, 30,000. Those petroglyphs are everywhere on the planet. Now, what were they trying to convey to us about shapes in the skies? Now, Ransom, you've been there and actually seen these plasma petroglyphs everywhere. Like, what's the unique thing that's in common with them? Are they all down in lower positions and all down in canyons, or what are we doing with that?
The vast majority of them are.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's some like where I live that are next to a lava fountain that just popped up probably about 5,000 years ago. So there was plenty of people around to see that. In an area that was a Pleistocene lake, lots of good hunting, snowfall, water, fresh water, and then all of a sudden things start drying up. You have lava come out of the earth, literally, where they call it the River of Fire. And right next to that is a lot of some of the craziest. It's one of the biggest petroglyph sites in the Southwest. There's 20,000 plus. I would say there's more like 50,000. But there's just some unexplainable things, or at least from our perspective, that are on there. And there's at least probably 6 to 7, maybe more different peoples over time that travel to all of the sites and leave their mark. So yeah, I can recognize that these are the same symbols from the other site. However, the older ones, what they call it, archaic petroglyphs. There's really no rhyme or reason to it as far as we could tell, but they look a lot like some of the stuff that you would see right here with the aurora borealis, like loops, circles, ropes, ladders. You know about the Paret. Um,
Yeah, Parad is one of my favorites.
and everywhere you go, you do see
Oh, wait, that's us. Earth's magnetic weakening field. That was from one of our shows. Yes, thank you for allowing us to talk about this in the Civilization Cycle podcast. Yeah, that's even on the tops of it. Whoa, there's your bird flavor.
Yeah, that's an
Is that an
angel.
angel? Like if you were doing, again, you're doing a handful of mushrooms, the aurora start, and then you see an angel up there. I mean, what would you feel? What would you think if you're a religious person looking for a sign?
Or even better, if somebody was going around saying you're going to see the Lord in the sky soon, and then boom.
Yeah, that would have to be a highly energized, charged event over the entire planet to see something like that. At that point, every power system on the planet would cease. Like everything would be so overcharged, you would get literally an EMP engulfing, not so much an EMP, but just an overcharge that would engulf the planet, like all circuitry of the planet. And Oh, compressor. What do you think it would be? Resistors, that sort of transistors. It's sort of boom, psh,
Well,
gone.
let's put it
If it's
this
all
way.
white like this, everywhere
We,
on the planet, shit, there'd be nothing left. I mean, natural would be left, but nothing electronic.
yeah, we're looking at this like a bunch of pretty stuff in the sky, but think about if you lived during the Lechamp excursion,
Oh
uh,
my gosh.
right?
That would be a plasma petroglyph that you would see would be so intense. Like that ground energy would be dancing ground energy and like sparks and circles and dots spinning and all kind of thing, just like you
Right.
see on the canyon walls.
Well, then now add mass extinction at the same time.
Mhm.
So around that same time, all of the other hominids were dying in droves to the point where they didn't exist anymore, except for hybrids. Hybrids were the only ones that made it through the Lechamp. There were no more, as far as we know, there was no more Homo erectus, there was no more Heidelberg, there was no more Neanderthal, there was no more Denisovans. All of the things that were not us died. I mean, literally just disappeared off the planet right
Well, that
around
makes
that
sense
time.
because, well, ransom, it makes sense if it's too electrified and there's too much electricity coming in, like the biorhythms of the species that would be inundated by this massive amount of radiation coming in for a certain amount of time, days, weeks, months, years. The body, the physical body, is only set for a certain frequency and resonance. Like if you overcharge that, or if you undercharge that, the body just doesn't function. It's within a range. So if you go completely over that, it might be cool for a few days, but your
So, but
body can't handle like KP9 or KP10 or at these events to just cite the size you're describing, like KP20s or 30s, right? Like you would be, how long could you last in that electrified environment? You know, putting your finger in and actually getting that high voltage and feeling the jolt where you jump back and go, oh, my arm or whatever. Not that it's different. It's coming in through the cellular level across every touchable space, not like that condensed space so that you get that shock, but still the whole system, the skin, everything is just picking up an incredible amount of charge electrically. So nothing would be able to stay alive during that time if it was that's why they ran to the dolmens, because perhaps when this came from the sky, if you were under those big like artificial rock, I wouldn't say tombs, but shelters, you could probably escape this. And that's why they had those small pieces of rock they pulled in to like really pull it in and lock it. So they were in there. It's kind of like the igloo, like pull in that piece of ice so it's totally covered from the ice and the wind. Totally pulling that rock, man. The plasma's coming.
right, and then imagine this stuff penetrating all the way down to the ground level with long and short wave stuff there. So you would have in today's world, somebody made a good point talking about everybody would be looking at that with their phone while their phones start popping.
How do you describe that in the skies? If you're watching it move like from the before and after, like almost like a butterfly, would this be a giant of old? I mean, would this be an archangel coming through? Like if that did actually take form, would that be the size and power of an archangel? Or I mean, what are you talking about here?
I think you might describe it as Amaru or Kukulkan or
Yeah,
Quetzalcoatl, feathered serpent. Look at it; it's got wings, it's got feathers, and overall it looks like a serpentine shape.
that's such a good call, man. I did not think about that, but it looks dragon-esque, like it would sort of.
Yeah, imagine even in China, you'd say that's a dragon.
Yeah, could be. Especially if the top where the thing came out on the side or did some, movement that twisted a little bit.
So what color does it get past that where it's like closer to the surface of the earth? Like can you
More white, like you can start to see where it becomes white. And you see the white here? Like, can you see my mouse or my cursor there?
right.
There, you see that striation of white? Like that's generally like a tornado would pop out of of a front, a cell, like a supercell front, like a tornado might pop out of one location. Well, that's the same thing where you're seeing the white starting to form. That's literally the same thing as like a field aligned current and energy tornado starting to come down, but not with the force of vortex to be able to suck you to the sky. It's just a field aligned current that actually becomes a wire without an insulated, encapsulated area. So it's not going to be as dense and compressed. It's going to be, a little bit looser and fluffier, but it's because it's not confined into insulation, but it's still dancing in the sky and twisting in on itself, and you can follow that current coming down on it.
I have this messed up idea. I watched that
That's pretty
it,
sweet.
remake
Orange is
or
a rare color, by the way.
not remake, but it was a movie about Chernobyl and how everybody from the nearby apartment complex came out with their kids to look at the pretty aurora above the nuke plant. All of those people died. That would be like something like this, that people would be out at nighttime and they'd be looking at it in amazement and wonder, and they would get one severe sunburn that they might not live through. It's really messed up. And we're seeing mild stuff because, like I said, these are it was only a G3 and a G4. But if you imagine something more strong than the Carrington event blowing down on the Earth at the same time as you're having magnetic field collapse, I could see how crops and people and animals and maybe even fish and the weather systems, everything just getting thrown out of whack, dying off, speciation. I think that's like the most plausible theory that I've ever heard of when it comes to this kind of stuff, because we have an example of the Lechamp excursion, and we know there was mass extinction at that time, and we know it was really close to the scenario that we're about to be in now, as far as the magnetic field collapsing. And then, what did they have? One, two. Here it says during the Lechamp event, the aurora experienced rapid wandering and appeared way low in the lower latitudes as the magnetic field drastically weakened and tilted, contracted. The magnetosphere enlarged and then opened and closed. Field lined regions allowed auroras to appear from their usual polar locations, making them visible across the entire globe.
Yeah, now take a look at this, Ransom, in the middle of the borealis, where right there, you see how there's like a concave, some sort of vortex going on there. But if you go to the right, look how smoothly it is banded across there. And I'm wondering, what's this disruption here? Because again, it smooths out as you go. The place that's really getting disrupted, I would think, is right in there. So what magnetic anomaly is happening right over that area where my cursor is? Because that would have to be the disturbance point to either like repel it, would have to be another strong magnetic force
Right.
or a strong energetic emanating force to push it around, because it would go around that other like vortex that was already in place there.
Do we
Just
have
saying, just
do we
asking the
have to get
questions,
a
man. It's Thursday night.
do we have to get a magnetic map of the actual surface of the earth, the field line, so we'll know where to go sit?
Yeah, I
Hey,
can't
pack your
find a
bags. We
roll
got to
rope.
go to Kansas because, it's not going to fry there this weekend or wherever
Auroral
it's at.
plasma rope. So yeah,
Steve's.
it's weird that you should be able to see this. It's a scientific term where where these things come in on themselves. But why can't I find? Oh, ransom. Oh, that's a decent one. Let me get. Oh, yeah. There's your almost picket fence that you were talking about earlier. Similar, but and it's not. It's
It's the
not as.
holding hands people. And that particular petroglyph is found all over the Southwest, where you get this big long string of people holding hands. Now, a lot of people say that's just representing the tribes. However, I've seen literally, like this picture we're looking at here, where you could, with some imagination, see a bunch of people standing up there, maybe even think
Oh
it's
yeah,
your
all of the hands like
ancestors.
this. Yeah. How would you describe that? It's a wall. Like,
It's funny. They have a Disney film that's pretty old called Brother Bear, and that's exactly what they say. And they're using the native folklore to put in that movie about their ancestors being in the sky in the aurora borealis. And you would see this right here. Look, holding hands. So why wouldn't, if someone told you, hey, that's our ancestors up there, why would you not believe them when you're seeing something you never see?
and then there's somebody there that can explain it, and they know something is better than nothing. You know. Okay, so here's on the Tongue River, I guess.
Yeah,
Just pops on and
it's
just kind of rolls
magical.
over the planet, doesn't it? Man, imagine being in that plane. I'd be stoked to be in those airplanes going right over that. Damn, they won the lottery by being over that storm. Although not radiation sickness wise, I bet anybody that was in the airplane just come down to scattered, man. Their brains are scattered, their bodies are just tweaked. You would not want to be in the plane except to see it, but would it be worth 4 or 5, 6 days of extreme, excruciating body disruption to fly through that to see it?
Speaking of that, right here, the Air Force
You'd be
was
so tweaked, man. Oh, you'd
was
get so
they were
sick.
doing nonstop night sorties during both of these magnetic storms. So that's kind of weird. Were they up there, training because of it, or were they just up there trying to look at it? Who knows? But they really had an abnormal amount, because they usually don't do night sorties so much, but they were doing a lot of them. We'd see 6 or 7 F-16s flying in formation, going in a big long line. So I don't know what they were doing.
Were they trying to go through the colors in the sky through the plasma?
I doubt that because, like I said, we're way down here past the camera line. But I bet from their altitude that they could probably see more things going on, especially if you're using FLIR and other stuff. I didn't even think about that, to get my night vision camera out and see what the sky looked like during that event.
Yeah, because you got to think about this. And let's see what this does here. For this is off swarm, but it's like some of the data is not. They don't put the real picture data anymore. So here you go. Nanoteslas, like the higher that goes up in the red, the more amplified or charged it is in terms of like up the electric current. Like a light bulb in the coffee shop where you can turn it up and it glows, and you turn it down, it gets dimmer, 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 like mood light setting. That's in the blues in the minus 200 there. Once you crank the light up where it starts to turn from that orangey to yellow, and then it goes from the yellow to sort of white, that's around the 200. So when you can, it's just current inflow up or down in the system measurable. So I'm just wondering what that disturbance was, and I cannot find auroral ropes in some of these.
You mean like Adam and Steve?
Yeah, where'd you see there now?
Is that what you're talking about? The Steves?
Yeah, I'm going to dive
Stevie.
off. I'm going to turn this off, and I want to see if I can find some auroral rope pictures while you chat here for a second. You know what's interesting though, Ransom, is when I would put this term in, there would always be like lots more of these images, but they are totally disappear. That's weird. There's far less of these images than there used to be. Although let me try to put it in Aurora Rope Steve, because that was the original name of when these guys saw this thing. There we go. Let me share my screen again with you. Now, this is the Aurora Rope, and that'll drip down, and that'll come down off of that sheet that we saw. So where it was starting to turn white and come out, that would be the extension of that down to the ground. But you can see where it's wrapping. So those are two different polarities wrapping amongst themselves, around themselves, creating a magnetic field and also a charged line. Now, if you were standing directly under where it touched, that would not be a good place to be. That would be like stepping into, well, part of your light socket. That's not good. And imagine any power lines that are under, any transformers, anything electric that would be under there. If it's going to affect your body to the point of giving you heart attacks and like disrupting the functions of your brain, like you can't think when you're near these things because the magnetic hemispheres of your brain get scattered. That energy is an overflow into the magnetic field of the lobes of the brain where it can't connect like it used to, and it gets disrupted. That's why people always say they forget things or they can't, the foggy memories. Anytime they're around these kind of phenomena, they have weird memories and sensations of what they were doing or what they saw or what they thought they saw. And then the electrification on it too, damaging any circuitry that this thing is under. Now you might go, okay, well, that's just one. Well, I get it is just one, but we only have one tornado sometimes too. But imagine the damage it does. Well, here's another one. And this, see how they start to wrap in on themselves? Now here's another one. Rare Steve. So you start to see how each of the colorations is a different amplified amount of energy in it. So which one's going to be glowing hotter? Obviously, the whiter the pink one is, wrapping around something that was forming on itself. And I've seen this one before. Again, the lower extremity part or the lower part of that is more highly energized on the wrapping coil there. So it's already wrapped and started to energize through the flow here all the way back. And if I can find a couple more right here, again, you can see I don't know how quite easily, but right down here, it starts to wrap. Like you can actually see the two different ropes, right? Kind of where my mouse is or where my cursor is. You can see that split where those two plasma currents that have wrapped themselves now have started to wrap in on themselves to create, well, that's an electric line without the insulation on it running through your neighborhood right there, coming down from the sky to the ground, but not that the voltage in it is not that, you know, but it's definitely going to destroy some electronics when it comes down. And so here's the thing about this too. They're getting brighter and more intense. So we're getting the whole package of everything getting brighter, more intense. It's not just what we saw with the regular auroras and that sort of thing that happened in Spain. And now some, electronics across the world are just scattered right now for these last few days. But these auroral ropes are starting to glow brighter. So Ransom, what kind of petroglyph do you think this would be here that you've seen?
There is stuff like that that looks like ropes and stuff like that that have
Yeah.
no real, anthropomorphic shape. Like it's not an animal, it's not a man, but yet somebody bothered to draw it on there. And then the weird circles. You have circles, you have spheres, orbs, like that kind of stuff. So we really don't know what they were trying to depict. It just seems to align with certain things like plasma. Especially whenever you figure in the squatting man being everywhere around the world, the Pratt instability centipede thing,
Oh
you find
yeah.
that everywhere. And you know, I've seen DNA looking spinning helix type petroglyphs. No telling what that was. Maybe it was a representation of this. I don't really think that they knew about the double helix, so I kind of exclude that out of my mind. But what else could it be? It's something that they saw. Otherwise, they wouldn't be putting it. And then right down there below that one that you're showing, right below it, you get another one of those
Picket fence. They
holding.
call it a picket fence here. That's
Right.
a classic picket fence. But what do you call it again?
Well,
What
there's petroglyphs called
villagers holding hands.
yeah, the holding hands petroglyphs, and you see those everywhere. It's not just in the Americas either.
It's just weird. This stuff. I'm looking for an auroral rope, and they keep tossing garbage up in here. That's weird. It's exactly the same thing.
That's just one of many. Let's see here. Like I said, they're found all over the world. Here's another one with the Ant-Man holding hands. Maybe I can get a better picture out of it. That might have been a small picture, but yeah, they're everywhere. You see this. Here's one in a circle formation. Here's some really old ones down here by where I live. Oh no, wait, that one says Hawaii. But you see the same kind of idea. And if you believed, and here's
Well,
one,
there's a
here's
snake. Yeah, that could very well be one of those plasma ropes that has electrified to the point where it's wrapped in on itself, and now it's just a single rope, like we saw in some of the instances of the white ones. So
right,
imagine if it was just highly electrified and it started doing this in the sky. That's that right there. It's exactly
right.
what that is.